Welcome to Go Math Lessons 8.1 and 8.2. This video is combining both of these lessons. We are starting to multiply fractions, and we're kind of breaking things apart. And just to know that we started this talking about unit fractions here. And a unit fraction is a fraction that represents one part of a whole, so the numerator would always be 1. A whole number is just that. It's a whole number, like 3 or 5 or 7. And product means I'm multiplying. So if we take a look at number 7, I want to write this fraction as a product of a whole number and a unit fraction. So this is 7 groups of 1/8. My unit fraction is eighths, 1/8, and there's 7 of them. If I were to make this a sum of unit fractions, 7/8 would look something like this: 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and so there's 7 groups, and in each of the groups is 1/8. Remember that multiplication is just repeated addition. So let's take a look at number 10. It is 5 groups of 1/6. Our unit fraction is 1/6, and there's 5 of them. Now 1/12 is 1 times the unit fraction 1/12. So how would we use this? Problem number 15 talks about Robin using half of a cup of blueberries in each loaf of blueberry bread. She has 2 1/2 cups blueberries. How many loaves can she make is the question. So I would want to see how many half cups are in 2 1/2. So a good strategy here is to change this to a fraction greater than 1. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I have 5 halves. Or, let's apply today's lesson, that's 5 groups of 1/2. So if I need to use a half a cup for each loaf, I would be able to do that 5 times. So I would make 5 loaves. Okay, so we're breaking things apart into unit fractions, and we're seeing how many of that unit fraction. The other thing we talked about today was listing multiples of unit fractions. So multiples are counting by things. So if you remember, the multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. We're going to do the same thing with fractions. So we would say 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, and we're just listing multiples. So that would be 5 groups of 1/8. Now what I'm going to do now is skip right over to 8.2 and show you how this is very similar, and you'll see why I combine them. The last lesson was on using unit fractions. We were just counting by a unit fraction. This time we're counting by a given fraction. And in this problem number 4, we're counting by 3/4. So if we think about 3 times 1/4, or 3 times 3/4 rather, and we use it as repeated addition, that would be 3/4 plus 3/4 plus another 3/4. So you can see that's 3 groups of 3/4. Here they show it on a number line. This is one group of 3/4, another group of 3/4, and another group of 3/4. So I would end up with 9/4. And one of the connections that the kids made today is they said, if I multiply the whole number times my numerator, I get my new numerator, and as always, we keep that same denominator. Now when we list multiples of fractions that are not unit fractions, we really have to pay attention to that numerator. So really we're listing the multiples of 4 over the same denominator as 5. So we would have 4/5, 8/5, 12/5, 16/5, and 20/5. And you can see I'd be counting by groups of 4/5. I hope these little strategies help. These are just some building blocks to multiplying fractions. It really gives the kids an idea of what we're doing. It ties right into the idea that multiplication is repeated addition, something we learned back in 3rd grade, and they really need to just kind of picture, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make groups of 3/4. So when you get a word problem and it says that he needs to make 5 batches of something and he needs to put 3/4 in each batch, so 5 batches, maybe they would be called, and you need 3/4 in each batch, well, that would be 5 groups of 3/4, and that would be 15/4. So I would need 15 1/4 cups. I hope these strategies help, and give it your best shot, and we will take a look tomorrow.